Turning our attention to the Michigan Wolverines, where
they've been in the news lately.
Yeah, they have. They have. It's Sharon Moore. He's he really needs storage space, right? I mean, that's why you delete all the text messages. You're just always worried. I mean, you want to have room for the photos of your kids, and so let's just delete all those text messages to make sure that we've got enough room on that cellular device. Win total at FanDuel Sportsbook of 9.5, over at +146, under at -178. Tom, Sharon Moore has no additional games of suspension for this season. He will miss the opener against Western Michigan out in Germany. We know, of course, that will be week 3 and week 4, the games he will be missing this year. As we're looking at Michigan, as we're looking at the schedule, what are you going to do with the win total?
I'm going under. You look at this roster, and I know that at the end of the year last season, they beat Ohio State, they beat Alabama, and they did it with terrible quarterbacks. And they've got Bryce Underwood coming in, who, maybe he is Cam Newton. Maybe he's the greatest quarterback in the conference. Maybe he's awesome from the jump, and Michigan is back to full strength. But when it comes to true freshman quarterbacks, I tend to ignore the talent more and just realize that these guys typically all go through ups and downs. And he's going to have his first road game is at Oklahoma against what's going to be a very good defense. Feel like that's going to be really tough to win. And then you're going to be on the road again for your second road game at Nebraska, and you won't have your head coach. And that could be an impact for you. So the schedule, to me, it's a little too difficult for me to project this team is going to go, 10-2. Like, I think 9-3 is far more likely here of an outcome. I have them losing to Oklahoma more often than not. I think Nebraska is yeah.
You could be 3-3 by October 12th.
Yeah, exactly. And, you look at the roster, we talk about everything they have to replace. I still think this defense will be very good, even without Mason Graham and those guys gone. I still think they've got talent there. They've got Derek Moore. They've got Jayshawn Barham. I think Jair Hill might be one of the best corners in the league, and we saw flashes of that last year when Will Johnson went down. The running back situation, I think, will be fine with Justice Haynes and company. Receivers are a concern, but I will say they got Donovan McCulley from Indiana, who is a guy I liked at Indiana before Kurt Cignetti ever showed up. He kind of just fell out of favor there with the coaching change, but I think he's a big body kind of third down, move the chains, red zone type that a quarterback can rely on. So I think they at least have that. It's just, I don't think Michigan at its peak, unless Bryce Underwood is God, is going to win 10 games.
I mean, I think you go out and get Mikey Keene in case maybe you don't want to start Bryce Underwood right away, a guy with experience, but apparently he's been dinged up. So it's going to be Underwood from day one, from what my guy thinks. So I'm under here, man. Now, look, I'm very willing to admit that we could be wrong about the Michigan receivers. I had a guy slide in the DMs the other day, and he was like, look, like, dude, they had like Iowa-level quarterback play last year, and probably worse. How do you know that these receivers actually suck? Maybe they just, like, they don't have anybody to give them the ball. I'm like, that's a fair point. Okay, I don't think that they're good, but maybe they're not quite as bad as I think. But how do we know the O-line's actually going to be any good? Like, tradition, recruiting rankings are certainly strong indicators, but I don't know that this O-line is bouncing back to what it was when they won the title in 23. Maybe it will. I don't know. And look, I do like their D-line development an awful lot, but man, losing Graham and Grant and Stewart, it to me is a big deal. Like, those guys were different. Like, look what they did to Ohio State. Like, those guys were very different. I think the schedules, it's tricky. Like, at Oklahoma, at Nebraska, at USC are all like very losable. Wisconsin at home, you probably should steamroll it. Like, Washington at home, I think you're probably too physical for them, but maybe not. You finish with Ohio State. Like, that's been easy for you the last couple of years, but I'm under here. I don't know that I trust them to be able to run the ball quite as well as they think they can, and I don't know that they're going to get quite as many stops on defense as they think.
I'm under. They don't have the signals anymore, so. What a huge that was. I was on the under anyway, even before that, for all the same reasons you guys have. I had them at 8-4. I had them losing on the road to Oklahoma, Nebraska. I'm bullish on Nebraska and USC. And Ohio State, I think, breaks the curse. And then potentially, is there another slip up in there that you don't see coming? They did lose to Washington last year. They do get them at home, but the Michigan State game could be tricky. It's a rivalry game. It's big year expectations for Jonathan Smith. I just think the under is the more likely. So I'm under.
Yeah, not rushing to lay minus 178. This probably comes into the Bud Elliott greatest hit of like, these numbers have been banged into place for a long time. That under 9.5 probably seems like the smart play if you are going over. And if you see 10-2 against this schedule with everything that we know about the roster, then to me your bet is just on Bryce Underwood. I cannot get to 10-2 without him being truly awesome, generational type stuff. I mean, we're talking Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I'm trying to think of like the true freshmen that have like hit the ground running and lived up to expectation right away. I think it would need to be Trevor Lawrence levels of instant impact by a true freshman for us to get there. And if so, then yeah, you're 10-2. You're in the college football playoff. You're competing for a Big Ten title. I just don't think they're there. So I'm going to go under.
I will say, to Danny's point earlier, he's got him 8-4. I was able to get an under 8.5 at a different book at plus odds earlier this offseason. I would rather have that than the under 9.5 at this.
Yeah. Not to cut Tom off, but 9.5, 8.5 is an interesting discussion here. Like, what would you rather have? I think it depends on what do you price a half win at? A lot of people say 70 cents or 75 cents, and then where's the cutoff on your win probability on Michigan's schedule, right? Do you think Washington at home is like an 80% game, or is it more like an 85 or 90% game, or is it lower? If you're going under 8.5, it kind of obviously the math matters here, but you really do have to kind of think about what's a better bet here. And it's not quite as simple as just pricing out a half win and then pricing out a full win on the difference with the juice. But you also need to figure out okay, for some of these teams, like Chip does with his exactas, the exact number of wins here is much higher than this number of wins.
Yep, all good stuff.